Welcome to the Real Critic Roundtable with Kathia Woods and Shawn Edwards. And we have special guests this week, Carolyn Hinds. And this roundtable was really created so we could provide a platform for dialogue and debate versus a monologue, because I was kind of tired of talking to myself. Now, some of you guys talk to yourself. I do the same. But I got a little help from my friends, so here we are. Now, last week, we discussed the importance of, this is my little critic for a minute, my opening statement. And then last week, we discussed the importance of Black critics and amplifying Black voices. In almost every industry, we hear people saying things like, Black people do that? There's Black critics? Well, if you don't know, now you know. I agree with my colleagues from last week that we really need to demand more from the industry to ensure that Black critics are getting paid, are getting exposure, and are getting access. However, access and exposure are like the tail wagging the dog, because if access and exposure doesn't go hand in hand with getting paid, then there is no real path for many critics to thrive and grow in this craft. Just something to ponder. That's my critic for a minute. Now, let's get to the show. Let's get to the show. So this week, we're going to talk about the Netflix joint, two of them actually, The Old Guard starring Charlize Theron and Kiki Lane. And then we're going to look at the movie Fatal Affair starring Nia Long, Omar Epps, and Stephen Bishop. Then we're going to turn to how the current focus on race has many people asking, hey, what movies can I watch? How do I learn about the Black experience? Well, we got some films for you. And then finally, we're going to get into some of the series that we've been binging on since we've been sheltering in place. So I had my say, so now it's time for opening statements. Introducing Kathia Woods. It's your turn, Kathia.
Hey everybody, I'm Kathia Woods. I have a site called Cup of Soul Show. www.cupofsoulshow.com. Everything you want to know about me and my thoughts and where I've been, what I've uncovered is on there. And I'm happy to be here.
Well, hit the drum roll and moving it on to Shawn Edwards.
What's up, man? Once again, hey, thanks for the invite. I love participating. Your platform is wonderful, man. Please, please, please keep it going. That's how we succeed. But my name is Shawn Edwards. Film critic, Fox 4 News, Kansas City, celebrating my 20th year on air. I added it up. I've been on TV now for 1,040 straight weeks. So trying to hang in there best I can. Also co-founder of the African American Film Critics Association and current board member on the Critics' Choice Association, the largest group of film critics in the world. So representing as a Black man at the table.
Hey, before I get to the next one, I do have a question for you. Didn't you tell me you found the napkin that you guys, is that true?
No, that's very true. I've had time, we're in the middle of a pandemic, and it coincided with my 20th anniversary on Fox 4 News. So we've been putting together these special segments on air, just talking about some of the things I've done during my 20-year tenure on the station. And one of the things I talked about was the creation of the African American Film Critics Association back in 2003. Actually began on the streets of it began on the streets of Kansas City because it was an idea that I had in my head once I decided to resign from the Kansas City Film Critics Circle. Met a couple colleagues that were doing junkets at the time back in 2003. One of them happened to be Gil Robertson. Met him on the street corner, 56 at Park Ave, New York, New York. The city's so nice, they named it twice. We had a discussion. I scribbled down some notes. We met again in LA because we were world traveling back then. And then we just created the formation of the organization, which is now 17 years strong.
Excellent, excellent. So now bringing up the rear, Carolyn Hinds. Welcome, welcome.
Hi again. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be chatting with everyone about films and movies, something I love to do. So I'm a film critic and a journalist. I'm also a podcaster. I co-host and produce a podcast called So Here's What Happened, where my co-host and I, Lanisha, we discuss our favorite picks of films, TVs, and books for the month. Come back, give our pros and cons. And I also have a special segment called Carolyn Talks, where I speak to directors, writers, producers, cinematographers, basically anyone in the film industry who's willing to talk to me about the process of making films and what it's like being a fan working in the industry.
Excellent, excellent. So let's get into it. Our first movie today is the movie Old Guard. The Old Guard. Kathia, tell us what this one is about.
I really like this film a lot. It's the summer movie that we all were yearning for, but we get to see it at home safely, you know. It also goes to show you, when you give a good director, who happens to be a woman director and Black, a budget and the support that she deserves, what she can do. I love that the fact that the cast is international. You have Europeans, you know, and also the different dynamics that are in there. Most importantly, I love that there are 2 female leads, and they're not stereotypical. They're not just there for TNA. But I really, really enjoy this a lot. You know what I mean?
But Kathia, you know the deal. How are you gonna tell me how you like it and you didn't tell me what it's about? What is this film about?
Oh, well, I don't want to give away the story. It was basically, to put it in the short term. The characters don't die. They live a long time. And the thing is, Kiki is the newest one who discovers that she has that ability. And Charlize, they're all connected because they have this gift and this curse. Charlize and her group of people that have been rocking for a minute discover that Kiki is out there. So she goes and gets Kiki to help her understand her power and how to deal with it. And Kiki at first ain't with it, because she's like, I'm a Marine, I want to go hang out with my people. And but then slowly and surely understands, you know, what she's dealing with, you know. By the end of the film, she kind of still is navigating her way, but she's accepted it. But again, I love the fact that we have 2 strong women, and they're not there to be the eye candy.
Okay, critics, jump in. You saw it. What you think?
I thought it was okay. You know, it's a comic book adaptation, and you know, beyond the politics, I mean, I definitely want to applaud the politics, but I also like to keep, it's like the separation of church and state. I like to separate the politics from what we actually see. So let's applaud the politics first and get that out of the way. I'm glad Gina got a chance to become the first Black woman to direct an action film based off of a comic book. Long time coming, should have happened a long time ago. I'm glad Netflix saw it fit to give her the necessary budget so that she could get the necessary tools and be able to afford some of the tricks that you need to pull this type of genre film off. Now, what we see on, not on screen because we watched it on Netflix, so what you saw on your TV or on your laptop or on your phone is it's a better than average movie that has a couple of flaws and some stumbles, but it's fairly entertaining, but it could have been a lot better.
What stumbles, Shawn? Man, I like the fighting in this, man. I like the characters in this. Come on, man, you make me mad.
I said so. No, I'm not making you mad. It's a good movie. It's not a great movie. Yeah, I like the setup a lot. I thought the setup was strong because you really have to set up the fact that these characters are immortal, because it plays, you know, to making the plot a lot stronger and giving the audience a better understanding of the journey you're about to go on with these particular people. And I thought the setup was pretty strong. I just thought that a lot of the things, without giving away anything that happens in the movie, a lot of the things that happen you've seen before. They really weren't fresh, and it was going to be hard anyway, because Charlize Theron was so incredible in Mad Max Fury Road, which is sort of like the same type of genre pick, that it was going to be hard to create a nuance that didn't force the viewer who had seen that movie to go back to that movie. Now, if you've never seen Mad Max Fury Road, this is probably perhaps a better experience for you in terms of enjoying what Charlize does on screen. But no, it's a solid movie. It's just not a great movie.
Well, for me, I really like the film. It, as Kathia said, it's like the kind of summer. If you were in a regular summer blockbuster year, this would have been a great start off for the season. And I think that Gina Prince-Bythewood did a really good job with the material she had. Because to me, the weakest part of the film is the writing. The writing is not as strong as it could be. And I think that's because it is adapted from a comic book, but the writer is the person who wrote the comic book. So I think like he was writing for the comic book, and like it didn't really translate well to like how you would have a script going to screen. But I still think he did a really good job because he knows what he wants for the characters. And I really did. And yeah, the writing could have been a bit more tighter. I think it could have been used a bit more exposition on who they were as immortals. Like we didn't get much backstory. They did filter it in a little bit going throughout the film, But I think it's a really good start for world building. Like it did really good world building with introducing the characters, letting us know who they were personally, and especially for now, who is played by Kiki Lane. I think like we get a really good introduction with her. Like she's strong and tough, but then she's also confused. So I think they really did that. So I'm looking for a sequel where if they do bring back Greg Rucka, they give him a co-writer who will like tighten up the script. And who
So where I push back a little bit though, Carolyn, is that, you know, we can't judge the movie on the hope for a sequel, right? It does. That's just would be my pushback.
No, I'm not judging on a sequel, but I mean, like, if we do get a sequel, I hope that they do give that if they do bring back Greg Rucka, that they do bring a co-writer who is able to like flesh out the script more than he was able to do. But I really like the film. I'm an action junkie. I love the action sequences in this film, and what I love about them is they're not fancy. I love fancy like choreography too. Like give me like all the tumbles, give me the wire work and wire flow and everything. But I really like for this film that it was clean. The action sequences were pretty. I said they were like straightforward, and like because these are mercenaries, they've been fighting for like literally thousands, hundreds of years, and they know all of these different fight styles. But because they're in a utilitarian setting, like they fought to suit the settings, and I really appreciated that because you had like the battle scenes back in like the BC era, and then they were in modern days, and it's more like guns, and I really like how they use both guns and medieval armor. And I really love the actors. The cast was really well chosen.
The cast was amazing.
Yeah, like that's the strong point of the film. The cast, like
and it was really international. Like this cast, you have Italy, you have the Netherlands. You know, you throw in Charlize in there from South Africa. You have America. And the other thing that I love is I don't want to give away totally the beginning, but the fact they kept it authentic. As far as the all-female Marine unit. Like people don't know there already are all-female infantry units in certain parts of the world because the politics demand it. They will not deal with men. Like in the Middle East, they will not deal with men. Men cannot go into homes of Muslim women, especially single women. And these Marines do that job. So I really appreciated that part. And as far as the writing, I mean, let's be honest. Hobbs and Shaw was not good writing. You know what I mean? That movie is
who said it was?
I'm saying, but if we're gonna judge action movies on superb writing, then there's a whole bunch that were worry worse. You know, I was ready to tap out of Hobbs and Shaw 15 minutes in.
But
I still haven't seen Hobbs and Shaw because
hold up a sec.
Hold up, but let me finish my point. But I feel like, you know, we always hold women to a standard that is above and beyond that compared to men. Men can make subpar trash like Michael Bay, and we give them all the kudos and all the respect because it had great action sequences. And then for the women, we want them to have superb script, superb action, superb all of these things. And I'm like, okay, if we're going to use these standards, then we need to be consistent.
All right, jump in, Shawn.
Wait. This is wait. Out of all due respect, no one said any of that. Those comments are completely out of left field. No one is judging this because she's a female director. No one said this is not as good as anything Michael.
Are you serious? You really don't think that women, that no one has said? Maybe we didn't say it, but you really
I think that's what Shawn said. He didn't say it.
We're dealing with the four people on this show. No one on this show.
I stand by what I said 100%, because at the end of the day, again, I do think we go into these things as biased, and it always is. And we have, you don't need to tell me that first thing you said it was okay, right? Which is your,
because I'm basing it off of what I saw. I didn't say it was okay because it was directed by a woman.
No. You have the right to say that it was okay.
But you're telling me I'm saying it because I said she was a woman. I
didn't say you, Shawn.
This is ludicrous.
I didn't say you.
This is stupid. What do you know? You just said it. No,
I didn't say you, Shawn. I don't know why you're getting defensive. I'm just saying I didn't say
because
you.
I can't be a part of a panel where these blanket statements are made. No one is. No one.
It's not a blanket statement. It's a fact that we hold women to a different standard than men.
But Kathy, he's saying that he didn't say that.
No, I didn't say he did. So I don't understand why he's getting defensive.
Because you're making a blanket. You're making a blanket statement. No one said that. You're making a blanket statement.
I'm saying to you is for you to. If I disagree with your standard, where you're saying that we need to have this.
Let me jump in here, though. Let me jump in here.
No, but Kathy, that's not what he's saying. He's saying
I didn't say him. He turned it into.
But so two things, Kathia. It doesn't mean that the two things can't. To me, that they can't both live. Yours is that you believe that in general that she's being held to a higher standard. Okay.
Absolutely. Always.
Okay.
Always.
So
Always.
let's say that we accept that. However, we
can't say we accept that. That's not true.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm not going to participate in this and go on record with that.
Go ahead, Shawn.
We accept that.
I'm good with that
because like Patty Jenkins directed Wonder Woman. It was fantastic and a great action movie. We're not penalizing anybody because they're a woman. I don't believe people wholeheartedly do that. That's just an unfair
I disagree with that.
And my point, Shawn, was I really like your clarification. My point was accept that because that's somebody's personal opinion. That's what I meant. Not that I accept that personally.
We didn't. Okay, but for clarification on this platform, then we have to really stress that this is a personal opinion and not make a blanket statement.
Mm.
Okay, I said that last week, and you were like, "It's understood." So, in my personal opinion, you know. But if we're doing this, we're all allowed to give our opinions. I will not have my opinion policed because you don't agree with it.
Because where I come from,
I'm not policing. No, hold on. Let me clarify. I'm not policing your opinion. Just the last statement you made, you have to put that on you and not making a blanket statement.
That's fine. I'll put it on me. That's all you had to say. But I'm not a kid. I don't need to be checked out.
I love the discussion here. And what I'll say is that just for the record as well, my look at this has nothing to do with whether she was a female or not.
Not at all.
But for me, I need to know, and I'm actually glad we're into the discussion because the way in which I judge a movie is whether it can stand on its own. And so, Carolyn, that's why I came back to you on this whole issue of, the sequel. I'd like to see a sequel, but I know I can't judge the movie on the hope of a sequel. So with that, I want to go around the horn. Is this a watch it or not watch it? I'm saying watch it. I liked it enough to recommend this one and say watch it. Kathia.
Oh, absolutely. Watch it.
All right. Shawn.
Oh, watch everything. That's what I always say. I've been saying this for 20 years. Like, no matter what a critic has to say about a movie, like, watch everything so you can judge it for yourself. So definitely watch it.
And
I'm the same. I'm gonna watch it. It's a good action flick. It has good acting, good characters, good casting. So yep, definitely.
Excellent. All right. So now we're gonna move on to our next movie. This movie is Fatal Affair, and this is the story of this great lawyer who's played by Nia Long, and she has a successful career in corporate America. She has a husband, she has a daughter in college, but she got this last case that she's doing at this corporate job, and as soon as she finishes that case, she's gonna go off and start her own law firm. Now, unbeknownst to her, the firm hires a classmate a classmate of hers, and they get to rekindle their friendship, and one thing leads to another, and I'll say it in a Jada Pinkett Red Table type style. They got into an entanglement. And so with that, we'll talk about the movie. The first two things that I'm going to say about it is, and then I want to hear from the critics, is that I think for me, it was good to have a woman messing up. Thank you. It's about time. It was good to have her messing up. But I did keep asking myself throughout this whole film, when do you really tell your husband what's going on here? Because there were so many places in here that I was like, girl, you got to tell your people. I'll start with Carolyn first. Oh, no, I don't care who to start. Somebody jump in. What did you think about this movie, and what kind of things did you like, didn't like? And then I'll jump in as well.
Can we preface
it was okay. It was an okay, typical okay cheating, like crazy stalker film. It's like, it's like, the plot, what's gonna happen. There were moments I was like, really, lady, you're smart. You got to move smarter than this. Like, first thing first, sell yourself out. I'm the kind of person my motto is like, sell yourself out before anybody else can sell you out. She should have gone and tell her husband, listen, I messed up. This crazy dude is coming behind me. Like, tell the husband, tell the friend, like, get it over and done with quickly.
All right, okay, so it's okay for you. So
it was an entertaining watch. I would watch it night along in anything.
All right, Shawn.
Well, here, let's preface this first. You know, everything that we're talking about, let's keep it really, really real. Everything that we talked about the last 4 months, we're grading on a pandemic curve. Because I mean, if there wasn't a pandemic, my God, like seriously, like no, come on. So you know, it's a pandemic, so we're gonna let you slide. Also, second note, Nia Long's been making movies for 3 decades. Jumped it off for Boys in the Hood. Omar Epps has been making movies for 3 decades. Love him opposite Tupac Shakur and Juice. That's enough to earn a hard pass. You know, people got bills to pay. Mortgages are due. Times are hard. Hollywood's been shut down for a really long time. Also, I like the fact that Nia Long produced this.
I did.
I'm never mad at anybody who jumps behind the camera because the game is mad difficult for real. But with that being said, this movie's straight garbage.
Right.
It's worse than a low rent Tyler Perry movie, but miraculously, it's very fun to watch. There are more potholes in this movie than De La Soul's 1989 song, "Potholes in My Lawn." Like there's potholes, plot points, and then they just make reference. I hate when people write a script and they make reference points just for the sake of making a reference point. And the major reference point that's made that disqualifies the entire movie is Nia Long's husband. It's mentioned that he's in the FBI freaking I.
Wonder if that was a joke. I wasn't sure.
No, that was not a joke. That's the biggest. That disqualifies the entire movie.
I thought he was an architect.
No, he's in the FBI.
Kathia.
No, he was an architect because remember
he's an architect in the movie because he has the drawings in the scene. So maybe he used to be in it. Anyways, getting back to the movie.
Yeah, I don't know. But anyway,
it's getting back
the
to the movie.
So you say straight out garbage, Kathia.
Well, because it's too.
I mean, I'm not gonna say that we're giving people a pandemic curve because it is what it is. We are in a time and nobody could have foreseen this coming. You know what I mean? Especially where we are right now. So, you know, you are dealt the cards that you are given. And if they win by that, I'll be more for it. Now, speaking of the movie, I love Nia. I love Omar. I'm happy that Steven got an opportunity to be in a project that showcases him to more people because, you know, he's been a guy that's been around a long time, but he's kind of like what you want to call Black famous. We know who he is, but the rest of the world doesn't. So I was happy for him to get an opportunity where he's coming into more households, so to say. Having said that, yeah, this movie it had a lot of problems. Do you know what I mean? I don't care if you did it for a check. Again, you know, you do things for whatever makes you feel happy, and I'm not going to judge anybody for that. But this movie was very problematic. I think it was very predictable. I think that all 3 of them are too good of actors for this subpar material. You know what I mean? And that's why we're sitting here and we're asking ourselves, like, why didn't she tell her husband earlier? You know, we're confusing details like, you know, I didn't even see that. Shawn is saying that he was in the FBI. I'm like, no, the man is an architect because there was a whole scene where he had the drawings out.
But it doesn't matter.
But because it lacked detail. The whole situation with the friend, like how he how did he even know that she was the friend? Do you know what I mean? Like there was a lot of
it was a lot.
It's asking us to make a lot of assumptions that are too much, you know.
Let's talk about the biggest flaw. I mean, look.
And we don't know what was wrong with the husband?
No, Omar never even slept with her.
Right.
He
didn't get it in.
You know, I mean, I don't think you need to sleep with someone to be crazy and have delusions. You know what I mean?
No, but it's called fatal affair. It's not an affair.
Right. That is so good that you say that because it was not an affair. And
it's not an affair.
And so for me, Katia, I so happened, maybe it's just a male thing. I was like, he didn't even get with her. So what's up, dude? You acting like I mean, y'all really got it on, and that she was the best. I forgot who sung that song, Best I Ever Had. She was the best I ever had. I'm like, come on now.
And it had potential. Like when it first started off, I was like, okay, like we might have a little something here. Let me not be so quick to dismiss it. But like, again, it just was very, the material, they deserve better. They deserve better.
So, you know,
but I am happy that Nia got to produce a film. I just think she deserves to produce something better, to get her PGA stamp.
What was funny for me was that when you look at this, all the situations that were going on in this, even in the beginning, he's holding her hand like, I'm like, no, ain't nobody gonna come into your job and work you like that. And I wasn't feeling all the things that went along. But what I will say, it's interesting that Shawn said this, because this is what I wrote in my review, is that I found myself talking to the screen. No, yes, no. And I stayed with it. I'm not saying like I thought it was a phenomenal movie, but I actually stayed with it because there was something about it that made me stay with it.
It's messy fun. We all like messy from time to time. Like Showgirls is a hot mess, but we somehow watch the film because we know it's a mess and we laugh at the messy parts and it pulls you in. You know what I mean?
Because you gotta see how much more of a mess. Like for me, another part that really bugged me is her friend Courtney. Like, how do you know this woman for years, and this man is just met? You'd be like, oh, could you do that? I'm like, you literally just met this man. The man is a freaking hacker. You're gonna just show a text message? I would have been like, okay, there's a text message on my phone saying it's from you. Show me your phone showing that you. I'm like, these people are lawyers. Where's your common sense? That bugged the hell out of me. I'm like, no one is using common sense.
I love it. I love it. So we'll go around the horn. I'm actually, it's really interesting because I'm a soft watch on this one. And Shawn said it differently than I would have in terms of pandemic curve. I was calling the shelter curve, is that if I'm in house and I got to be at the crib, I watched it with my wife. We laughed, we had fun, but this would not be a film that I would recommend. I would say, hey, you got to go see it if it were in the theater. But if you're at home, we're in the pandemic, I'm saying watch it.
No, that's the most beautiful thing about Nia Long. This is her first opportunity to produce. She has no pressure. This movie doesn't have to perform at the box office where we'd be in a position to lose millions of dollars. It's on Netflix. It's prepaid. It just has to get views. Yep. It's going to get views. That's why Netflix is saving people's careers. Like, if this were released theatrically, she's one and done.
No, I agree. It's like Kathia called it messy fun. Like, this is one of those films that if you're absolutely bored on a Sunday and there's nothing else that you can think of to watch, I would watch this. And it is a film I would probably watch with like my girlfriends who'd be sitting down just like cackling and talking about it and like talking at the screen, because I did that. I was like, what are you doing? And it's honestly, but if I, as professionally as a critic, if I was to write a review, I think I would be like, not worth your time. But we're home, is like, we are all bored. It's like things are getting monotonous. You want something to break monotony, watch it. And I would watch Nia Long in anything, as proven by me watching this film to the end.
Cool. Well, Kathia, you got the last word on this one.
I mean, one thing I will say that it did have over a Tyler Perry movie. That house was the bomb. Like, you know what I mean? I will say that's the plus in the movie was where they shot it. And you know what? The wigs were way better. The hair was tighter. We didn't get a bad S-curl, you know. So the pluses out of that is everybody's costuming and the set was 1,000% better. I mean, if you turn down the sound and you just want to peek at that house, that might be worth a good 40 minutes, you know.
I agree. Well, better than a Tyler Perry movie. Wigs were on point. Costume was on point.
Yeah, so you know, I will give hey, there's something positive about everything, and that's the positive.
All right, I'm not sure that's gonna get me to watch it, but I hear you. So now we're gonna move into the next segment, and this segment is really the issue, the topic that we always talk about, some kind of topic that's out there. And one of the topics that we're hearing a lot of, I know individually, people are saying, what should I watch? how can I learn about the Black experience? And so, Shawn, if you could kind of kick this segment off for us, that'd be great.
Yeah, no, you make a great point. Because of the, civil unrest, social justice has been at the forefront. Police brutality has become a much more mainstream topic that people are more willing to discuss now here in 2020. There have been a lot of people who've reached out, particularly the Black journalists, to try to get their insights and viewpoints on how, if they haven't understood Black people all this time, how can they gain a better understanding through watching movies or TV series or documentaries. And I like to preface it with this. I say, read a couple of books first, which is why I put out a list of 20 different books that you can read to gain a better understanding of the Black experience. But if you have to do it cinematically, I've done a couple of things within the past 4 months, like with the partnership with Fandango, where we put out 110 movies you should watch, so that people can, I kind of like to let people pick and choose what they want to watch and instead of telling them something specific to watch. But for purposes of this platform, I will cite 3 movies specifically to watch, since that's what you want us to do.
Thank you, sir.
The starting point. I mean, I never want anybody to start theatrically, so my starting point's with the documentary, and I think a good way to gain a full understanding of the contemporary context of what's going on is to start with I Am Not Your Negro, which is one of the best documentaries ever made, because it actually gives you the perfect context of what's going on right now, and you can kind of see what's been happening in the past few decades. So I think that's a great start.
So before you go to your next one, Shawn, I want to ask our other critics, because that's on my list, man. I think that's a must see.
It's a must see. It's a must see. And I don't say that very often. There are very few things I'll say are a must see, but I Am Not Your Negro is definitely a must see.
Carolyn, Kathia?
I mean, definitely. Yeah, I Am Not Your Negro. And furthermore, you should, as an adult, whether you're Black, white, or whatever, you must read something by James Baldwin. That is just, if you've taken high school English, honors, AP, or just English, period, in college, if that's on your summer reading list or whatever, just read it. Because James Baldwin was probably one of the most prolific truth tellers. We always talk about Malcolm X, we always talk about Martin Luther King, but we really need, he is in that group because the man was unapologetically Black himself, gay, during a time when none of these things were welcomed, and he did it in rooms that weren't always welcoming and open to receiving that message. But the man was consistent in his messaging and his love for Black people, and also holding us accountable to each other. And so definitely, that definitely should be, hopefully if you watch the movie, it should invoke you to go start reading his books, if it works the other way around. Because sometimes that's how it works. You watch a documentary and then you're like, where can I read more and find out more about the man?
Excellent. Shawn, you had you cheating because you got 3, but go ahead. What's your second one, man?
Oh, did Carolyn give hers? I don't.
Oh, Carolyn, I'm sorry.
Me for I Am Not Your Negro.
Yes.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I would recommend anyone watch that. I think I watched that a while, maybe years ago, and I haven't seen it. So it's definitely something that if you have seen it like me years ago, and you don't have a clear recollection of it, like me. It's great to watch, not only now, but also for learning more, as Kathy said, about the writer and about Black history, especially Black American history. But being from the diaspora, because I'm from Barbados, is also so many things that that North Americans experience, Black people, even though a lot of people don't understand, we do experience in the Caribbean as well. And it is something that impacts the diaspora. So I would recommend anyone watch it and try to make it a learning experience too. For these kind of films, my sister and I said we have discussions, and this is as what we're doing now as critics. We have these podcasts or discussions about these films, but also to make it a discussion with people at home or in their friend circles. And one of my friends, friends, we've been discussing Our Prisoners Obsolete by Angela Davis, and I think now, because the quarantine, this is one of the positives of the quarantine. We can use these times to get to know more about films and about books and about writers and just about different.
I think you make a fantastic point about the discussion piece, because watching it and not having the discussion after watching this
pointless. pointless.
Yeah, and go ahead and say your point on that, Shawn, and move on to your next movie.
No, I was just going to third that. Great point. You have to have my recommendation is have a discussion before you watch and definitely a discussion after you watch. But my second pick, I'm going to go theatrical. Most people have just been introduced to this guy within the past few years because he's teamed with Spike Lee on his last 3 movies, Chirac, Black Klansman, and the latest one, Defy Bloods, as his co-writer. And I'm talking about filmmaker Kevin Wilmot, who is actually a filmmaker as well as a screenwriter. But his 2004 film, Confederate States of America, is one of the most criminally underappreciated and underrated movies ever made. And I recommend people watch that ASAP, and your jaw will drop. And because it basically is mimicking everything that is happening right now. Confederate States of America, directed by Kevin Wilmot, released in 2004.
Cool. Third one?
Third one, always the go-to. Best movie ever made, Do the Right Thing, directed by Spike Lee.
There we go. I'll go with you, Carolyn. What are your 2?
Don't
cheat like Shawn. Don't cheat like Shawn.
No, I have to, but it's actually, I'm gonna say it's kind of ironic that he mentioned Do the Right Thing, because I was actually reading a piece by Naima Perrier. I think she's basically a Black music historian, and she has an article where she writes about different pieces of music history, and I read a piece that she wrote about Fight the Power, by which is a song featured like 20 times in the film. So I think it's ironic that you mentioned that, and I read the piece, like, I think it was not yesterday, the day before, about the film and about the how that song became part of the film. But my 2 recommendations are theatrical, but for 2 different reasons. The first one is What's Love Got to Do with It, starring Angela Bassett and Lawrence Fishburne. Now, the reason I mentioned this film is, again, I love Angela Bassett, and the reason I mention this is because so many people have not, especially of the newer generations, have not seen this film. And her performances, both of them have spectacular performances, but Angela Bassett, she deserves recognition for her work as an actress. And we always mention What's Love Got to Do with It, because to me, from almost every film that I've seen in my life, she gives one of the most ridiculously beautiful performances. And the film is brutal because it's about the abuse that Tina Turner suffered at the hands of her ex-husband Ike. But what Angela Bassett does in this film is stunning, and it is a crime that she was snubbed for the Oscars, and it will always be a crime. And like anyone who only knows her from like her later works deserves to know her for what she did earlier for her career, because she's always been flawless she's one of those actresses, no matter what material you give her, she makes it work. She puts her all into every role that she ever plays. If whether it's a Oscar-worthy script or if it's just like a basic script, she puts her all into it, and she deserves the recognition for that. And I also think it's because it's a part of Black history, because Tina Turner is one of the most famous Black female musicians in history ever, and this was an important part of her life as she wrote her book about it. And it's also important because because she wrote the book herself, when the film was adapted, there's the accuracy. So a lot of it was accurate, and she was, I think she was a consultant on the film too, and she and Angela had a really good close relationship. So what we see on script isn't just like glamorized for Hollywood. It is what it was, right? And I think that's important too. And then my second.
I was hoping you're gonna get to the second one, because I'm like, we want to talk too.
Oh, sorry. And so my second film is If Beale Street Could Talk, based on adapted from James Baldwin's book, If Beale Street Could Talk, by the same name. So the reason I recommend this one is because this is one of those films that when I watched it, like I got emotional seeing how Barry Jenkins filmed Black people on screen, because I've never seen Black people filmed so lovingly on screen. But also because it's a James Baldwin book, and I, as having read that book, I could not get into how he writes. Like the way how he writes and the way how his prose flows and everything, I could not get into it. So I think what Barry Jenkins did was a brilliant adaptation for the book, because when I read the book, I'm like, how the hell is he going to translate this onto screen? Because the book is 70% of her inner monologue, right? So it was like, how? So I think he did an amazing job, but also, so I just think like it deserves to be seen not only for the artistry that Barry Jenkins does, but also for anyone who may have trouble reading James Baldwin's book. I think it's a really good way for people to understand what he was trying to say about Black Americans and Black politics and police brutality and all of these things. and still be able to see like Black love and Black struggles and everything shot.
Got it. Kathia. Yeah.
Right, but so Carolyn stole one of mine, which was Beale Street Could Talk. I love James Baldwin. To me, he is my favorite writer, not just American, not Black. He's number one for me. I've read everything of his. So Carolyn made the point, so I'm going to go in a different direction, because racism and classism are not just an American thing. Black people are global. Our suffering is global. And I'm going to recommend City of God for two different reasons. I'm Brazilian. My parents are born and bred from Rio de Janeiro. No, my parents did not grow up in the favela, but the perspective that people always get from the favela experience is very stereotypical. And the idea that the relationship between police and in Brazil's case is military police, and the poor people is a global issue. And that movie goes into a little bit about what the issues are in Brazil. We also have to remember Brazil is a new democracy. My mother, my grandmother were living under a dictatorship. So these are a lot of the things that plagued a lot of the injustices that are featured in this film. They don't really talk about that, but the regime during that time was a dictatorship. People died and people disappeared, and no one ever knows, and to this day that a lot of people never accounted for. So that's one of the things that I think that people need to take away from that. Racism is a global issue. The other one that I would recommend theatrical is Sounder. And Sounder, first of all, because Cicely Tyson is amazing in it. Again, it shows you how you keep Black people poor, you know, where people are like, oh, we came out of Reconstruction and you're free. But if you're not economically free to have access to things, you're just one step above slavery. And what that family went to, and the resilience of this woman to be like, you know, anybody else could have gotten just in bed and been like, I'm done, or packed up her family and been like, it is what it is, screw this, and I'm moving on. But just the resilience, the fact that she just had faith, the fact that she pushed through. And because this idea of Black people in the South and this narrative with the Confederacy and all of that is very romanticized. Like, Black people were so happy just to be, and that wasn't reality. Life was very, very hard. And even up to the 60s, people were still living like that. You know, my grandmother went to school in a one-room schoolhouse, you know, and that type of thing. And it just gives people an understanding that this romanticism that people want to sell you did not exist, and still in certain parts does not exist.
Wow. All right. So thank you for that. I'm gonna list mine, and I have to change hats. I am going with Malcolm X.
Hey.
I'm going to cheat and also say I'm going to go with Ali, because I think that people need to. The reason I'm saying I'm cheating, because I got a third one too. Since Shawn cheated, I'm a cheat. I'm going totally militant route. I'm going Malcolm X, Ali, and Straight Outta Compton. And the reason I'm going with Straight Outta Compton is because I believe for people to understand where these where we young Black men come from, what we were thinking, and how they became that phenomenon, I think that there's importance to that. But aside from the industry stuff, but the messages and the things that they were trying to say. But I'm going Malcolm X, Ali, Straight Outta Compton. Now we got a couple of minutes to discuss everything that everybody done said, so jump in there.
Well, I like the fact that you brought up Ali, because I think that's a very underappreciated film directed by Michael Mann. So I'm glad to see that on your list. But I like those three titles you just cited, because it's a great segue to the final topic on what have we been actually binge watching ourselves during the pandemic. And one of the series that I caught up with is a series by the name of Snowfall, which dealt with the crack epidemic in South Central Los Angeles during the Reagan era in the mid-'80s. And I think that TV series, all 3 seasons of that fantastic TV series, does a wonderful job of sort of explaining the juxtaposition of where the Black community was at the start of the return of troops at the end of the Vietnam War and where we ended up at today. And it does a beautiful job of really just laying out all the details and nuances of what happened to an entire generation, entire culture, entire demographic of people that were set in certain circumstances in this country.
Wow, he segued into his thing. But before we do that, I mean, before you guys do yours, any thoughts about any of the other movies that were thrown out there?
Well, I love Ali. Like, Will Smith did an amazing job in that film. Like, so much people, like, his career is so up and down at times depending on the roles I think. But I think he, like, during that era, he picked some really good films. Like, he's one of the few Black actors who not only made a successful transition from one genre to the next as a rapper to an actor, but he's never afraid to pick different genres. And he went from doing I, Robot and I Am Legend to doing Ali. And so I think, like, it's a great homage to the man himself, to Muhammad Ali, but it's also like it shows us what Will Smith is capable of as a performer. And it is a fantastic film. Malcolm X is film was legendary. I am not the biggest Spike Lee fan, but I will give the man his kudos where it deserved, and he did that with Malcolm X. And what was the other film?
Straight Outta Compton.
Straight Outta Compton, yes. I watched that in the cinema here in Toronto, and let me tell you, that was one of the experiences where being in a multicultural society, going to the cinema can be going to the cinema can be an experience itself, depending on who's in the cinema with you. And the cinema, that was one of the few times where I went to the cinema where it was almost an all Black viewership attendance, and it was amazing hearing people sing the songs as they came on. Like, everyone was rapping along, so that was a great experience. But yeah, I would recommend all three films for sure too.
Kathia, any thoughts?
I have my issues with Straight Outta Compton because I know D, and D's a friend, so that won't be on my list for those reasons. Because, you know, I come from hip hop. I started my career writing in hip hop, so I have very strong feelings about what was done to her, and still she has not gotten her Mea culpa in the Me Too era. So that's the reason why I can appreciate it. I was in college, and definitely when that album dropped and when WA came on the scene, and definitely, but you know, I am gonna stay strong allegiance to my friend. You know, again, some of these, my favorite performance from Ali is not Will's. I mean, I thought he did a good job, but Jamie Foxx as Bondini Brown stood up for me more. I felt as though people overlooked that a little bit. You know, he did finally, I mean, I think with Ray and everything, everybody caught up, but the transition for Jamie, for him to play this man, and this is one thing I do appreciate about Jamie Foxx. He's not afraid to do what is needed, whether it's you know, just engulfing himself in the role or appearance-wise and everything. That performance stood out for me more than Will's. I thought Will did a good job, but I thought, you know, the vulnerability, or, you know, when Jamie is like asking to be a part of things again, you know, after they had the falling out, sometimes we forget that moments like this, character performances help tell the story too. So for me, Jamie's performance stands out a little bit more.
That's because Jamie Foxx is the greatest Black actor to ever lived in the history of planet Earth. If they did a versus where we battled actor versus actor, he would destroy everyone.
I
like him. I don't think he's the greatest, but
he's
he is
the
definitely
greatest Black actor that ever lived.
I like him. He's top 10. There's definitely some people that I think that are ahead of him.
I would say he's the most versatile.
I love this.
I would say he's the most versatile in the way he's able to change not only his appearance but his voice and the way he gets into the role. Yeah. He becomes the character to play. And like, people would say that Denzel Washington, I would say this is where he's actually a top of Denzel Washington, because Denzel
way better than Denzel.
I love him.
Denzel's one note.
Basically, it's the same person in almost every.
Well, you guys are saying the same thing. What I'll say about why I chose that film particularly is that I thought that the chemistry between the two of them was magical, in fact, in Ali. And the way in which they work together, oh my goodness. I mean, just to put those two on the screen together and to watch them was like watching a master class to me.
Can we have them again? Can we have them together again? Like
to
they
me,
need to do another film.
It really was really great.
Can't afford it. No one can afford. What producer can afford that?
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So with that, we had our last segment, which Shawn already did his. He went and talked about the series that he was binging on, and so I'm gonna go with you, Kathia, and then Carolyn next. What have you been binging on while you've been at home?
Okay, so I'm revisiting Luther. Luther is one of the best TV shows, period. It took a long time for American public to catch up to this. It's Idris Elba at his best. I just love the whole concept that the British somehow seem to be able to police things and not pull out guns necessarily. And somehow they still have law and order. But I just love the whole character. He is a mess as a person, but that messiness as a person also translates to him being an extraordinary policeman. If you have not seen Luther, hit play. It is really Idris at his best. He is in that genre of great police detectives. I think that's what's missing on TV. You know, the Columbo type. These days we're so everybody guns blazing, but the detective that is disheveled, that is not the most together person, but is analytical and just very, very smart and understands the people he's sitting across, because they have parts of that in them. So you recognize what is your weakness a little bit. The difference is they're using it for good. But Luther is definitely something that I recommend. And the other one is
how many seasons for this one?
What are we talking, 5 or 6? 5?
I thought it was four.
Yeah, because they call it series.
So how many shows I gotta watch to catch up on this one?
It's not that many, because they're not traditionally 10 or 13 long seasons.
Yeah, exactly. They're not as many. And in the other sense, this is a show. It's a documentary. Those of us who are Latino of any descent, we grew up with Walter Mercado. And Walter Mercado's a documentary, Mucho, Mucho Amor, is that feel-good documentary that you need. It was our Liberace, our genie, this magical man, which I still don't know how you have an astrologer close out the news, but Walter did, and came on there, and all of us would sit mesmerized, including me. I did not quite understand why my grandmother, who was a religious woman, needed to know what Walter Mercado was giving her in terms of stars. But if Walter said it, he would come on there, Aries, Sagittarius, Libra, and he would give you your good words for the day. And again, you gotta remember, this is how he closed. Here in America, Univision, he'd close out the friggin' news this way. And this man is so endearing. Much love to Christina, Alex, and Kareem, who are the directors and producers of this film. And again, what a lovely man, what a warm man. If you need something to warm your heart, please, please, please click on Mucho, Mucho Amor.
All right, thank you, Carolyn.
I'm known for one thing when it comes to TV shows. I'm binge watching, especially Korean dramas. So there's this Netflix has been getting a really good number of Korean dramas recently. So I've been binging a whole bunch of them, but there's one that's currently airing right now called It's Okay to Not Be Okay. And I think this series is actually doing a really good job exploring mental illness and different forms of mental illness. And it's something I do intend to write about, but it's really good. It's aesthetically stunning. It's by one of my favorite Korean drama directors. He did a show called Encounter, which I love. The cinematography in this show is like really good. The styling, I want to wear all her clothes. But there's It's Okay to Not Be Okay. That's on Netflix. And then there's also one called Knots and Crosses. So this is a British drama series too. But it's different because it's a British drama series, but it's also a South African series. It's a what's the word I'm looking for? A collaboration between Britain and South Africa. So it's based on this book series written by a lady, I don't remember her name, but it's actually studied in British schools because it talks about race theory. And the difference between this Knots and Crosses is they looks at what if white people from South Africa.
Oh, Carolyn, no, you froze.
Okay, so I'm back. So what was the last thing you heard me say?
The British collaboration. Say the two shows, Carolyn. Say the two
Okay,
shows.
so the first one is It's Okay to Not Be Okay. It's a South Korean drama on Netflix. It's about mental illness. It's aesthetically beautiful. I love the clothing. The fashion is stunning. I want all of her shoes. And so it does a really good job of exploring different mental illnesses and how people need to be able to relate to each other. And the other drama is a British drama. It's a collaboration between Britain and South Africa. It's called Knots and Crosses, and it's based on a book that's used for race theory in British schools. And it talks about what if during colonialism it was actually Black people who were able to colonize, keep South Africa Black and keep Africa Black, and then the white people would have been the ones who were it wouldn't be apartheid, but it would be the closest term would be apartheid. But it would be if Black people were the ruling class in South Africa. And what would it be like if you have Black people were in charge of and like doing everything, and they were in charge of everything, and when people were working as the servants and the maids and the babysitters, and the Black people were the politicians and the CEOs and everything. And it's
so what's the name of this one?
Process. So it's KNOTTS X Process. So I think the first season is done. I'm not sure if they're doing a second season because of COVID. But it's really interesting to be like really look at, and it makes you wonder if such a thing as, because it does a whole thing with reverse racism. That's why if white people were watching this, would be like, see, reverse racism is a possibility. But then if you really pay attention, the writer is saying it's not, because the oppressed can never be like, the way how oppression works is you can't have the oppressed be considered supremacists. So like Terry Crews talking about that whole Black supremacy nonsense.
So that's another topic, but I get a chance to close out. So hold on. So I'm cheating again today. Instead of talking about a series that I'm binge watching, today is actually the 6-year anniversary of the Eric Garner killing. And his cry, "I can't breathe," really, really galvanized the community to start to talk about again, because it's not like it's going away, but to talk again about police brutality. And 6 years later, we find ourselves kind of in that same space with "I Can't Breathe" with George Floyd. Now, the difference is that 6 years ago, the system did not seem fit to convict him or indict him, meaning Daniel Pantaleo, who was the officer who did the chokehold. So it didn't happen. So a producer director named Rory Messenger decided that he would put on the trial that was never put on, and it is called American Trial. And for me, this is a really interesting project to watch, because what they do is they take interview clips and actually have a real trial with everybody except Daniel Pantaleo. They have an actor play him, and his widow Esau Gardner actually goes on the stand. She testifies. It is actually wrenching. So it's informative. It is interesting. It's painful to watch, but I think it is necessary to do so, particularly in this time. Today on their Facebook channel, they will have a live stream discussion with Esau Gardner, Rory Messenger, Al Sharpton, and so you can go to facebook.com American Trial Movie to be a part of that and to hear that. And also, if you want to see the movie, you can check the movie out at passionriver.com/American Trial. That's my pick. Before that, I would like to give everybody just a closing statement. So I'll start off with Carolyn first. Any closing statement you might want to make?
It's just that I think with everything that's going on, I think film is something that we can all use to not only to relate to each other but also to look back at where we have come as a people and where we could be going. Because just like books tell, just like how we always say, to understand the future, you gotta look to the past. And there's so many films that tell us about where the world is going. There's films like Children of Men, but then you also have films talking about the civil rights era, like Malcolm X and those kind of things, and like we can look and see the history of especially Black people and just figure out where we are now and where we and who we want to be and like where we want to go, and like using like civil rights to like keep pushing and to keep remembering that we've never really stopped being in a civil rights era, because we've always been oppressed and we've always been struggling, and we will have to keep fighting, and we just don't have to stop. And we can use film not only as entertainment but as learning devices as well, and to see the beauty of who we are as a people.
Thank you. Shawn.
First off, I want to say congratulations to a colleague of mine, Wilson Morales, who's about to head down the entrepreneurship road. He's launching his own platform, blackfilmandtv.com. So congratulations to him. If you get a chance, I want everybody to check out, I wrote a column for the Kansas City Star, which is a major daily here in Kansas City, Missouri. I did a column on racism in America. That's available at thekansascitystar.com. And I'm about to jump on a plane for the first time in a really long time as I head out to Sacramento, California. Deon Taylor starts production on his latest film tomorrow called Social Distance. We'll be on the set and giving you straight exclusives on that, my man, Reggie.
Yeah, thanks so much, man. Kathia.
So I just got the pleasure of doing a panel with my Africa brother, Anthony, the movie brother, for Miss Teens for the Black Denton Film Festival. So that is up on the site on www.cupofsoulshow.com. It's a movie I really, really love. I am, so enthralled. It's great. If you're a mom, it will just choke you in all the right places. And it's a conversation that I think it's a different type of movie that we don't get to see a lot, to talk about how our relationship with our mothers, our grandmothers inform how we parent. And, and also in the words of Reggie, it makes you kind of like, as women, also take accountability for how we have a hand in our relationship with men. People treat you the way you allow them to treat you. And then lastly, I agree with Carolyn. I mean, my thing always is that we make sure that in this time where everybody's feeling bad and guilty that it's not performative art, it's great to have covers about what's going on in the struggle. But if the newsroom is still predominantly white, it doesn't mean anything. If you still only have one Black reporter, or you don't have any Black editors or Latino editors, and or if your staff is not reflecting the content that you're claiming to put out and claiming to care about, then that's a problem. The whole idea, if you really are about that change, there need to be not that token one Black person, or if you hire a Black woman, you're not checking off 2 boxes. Hey, we have another woman and she happens to be Black. There are great journalists out there right now. A lot of great journalists that got laid off, that have experience, that have freelance for your magazine for, as I like to call them, they're permanent temps for like 100 people. And, people like J.L. Barrow, people like Candace Fredericks, who are continuously amazing. Right? Hire these people. Stop it. Hire these people. Don't have one of your Hollywood shindigs. There goes your money for the salary. And that's really where I'm at. I want to see show and prove. I want to see the change. We need to have a challenge that says, "Show me your writer's room." We need to have a challenge that says, "Show me your newsroom. Show me your editors." I guarantee you. I mean, that would be some. We know what it is, but a lot of people would be like, "Oh, damn." The fact that we have magazines that have been around for 100 years are just not hiring photographers, art directors, the list goes on and on, that are Black. You want us to give you a kudos? No, you should be ashamed of yourself that it took you 100 years to hire somebody like that, So that's what I'm looking for in this climate.
Well, hey, that's our show. We went a little over this time, you guys, but that's okay, because that's Carolyn. She was like,
wait, what?
Oh, my bad. We went a little over, but that's our show. The critics are back next week to discuss, debate, and maybe even have a little fun. Thanks a lot, guys.
All right.